Beloved, the scene is set. The Civil War has ended in the summer of 1865. Union General Gordon Granger and his troops, 2,000 of them, traveled to Galveston, Texas to announce the General Order Number 3 on June 19, 1865. The question is, why was it necessary for him to have 2,000 soldiers? One word: enforcement. On the count of three, can you say enforcement? 1, 2, 3.
Enforcement.
And if you don't enforce your right and liberty today, you will lose it. My task is to read General Order Number 3 and introduce this wonderful young man. The people are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection theretofore existing between them become that between employer and hired labor. The freed are advised to remain at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness, either there or elsewhere. General Order Number 3. Beloved, the Dr. Alzo J. Reddick has prepared himself for this task tonight, this evening. He's prepared in heart, he's prepared in head, and he's prepared in hand. In heart, he was born and raised right in a little place just down the road called Alturas. Soon moved to Orlando, Florida, where he was raised. Graduated from Jones High School. And as his father, following in his footsteps, he was introduced to politics at a very young age. And passion in his heart that he would fight for the rights, for the struggle of our people in the state of Florida. He went to Jones High School. He went on to further his education at that great school, Paul Quinn College in Texas, that AME school. We are excited because his passion in his heart helped fill his head with knowledge and wisdom. Went on to that great institution on the highest of 7 hills, FAMU, to receive his master's. Went on to Nova University to receive the Doctorate of Education. And we cannot forget my alma mater, the University of Florida. God bless you, Doc. He is also prepared in hand, rolled up his sleeves and went to work. One of the most profound and outstanding black legislators that the state of Florida has ever seen. We're excited because he's the only black legislator that was able to have 2 constitutional amendments passed. One was single-member districts, and the other was historic preservation. And that is significant because in his upbringing, he saw black morticians, and he saw black doctors that were well off economically, that the state of Florida needed to do something to make sure that those properties were sustained so that it could provide a visual place for our young people to pattern themselves after and to know that the sky is the limit. It gives me great pleasure to thank God for this young man that we are grateful for, and to celebrate 30 years as the author of the legislation of Juneteenth commemoration. He is the father of Juneteenth in the state of Florida. And beloved, as I close, the song that made a difference in this young man's life is "May the work I've done speak for me." May the work I've done speak for me. When I'm resting in my grave, there's nothing more to be said. May the works I've done speak for me. May the life I live speak for me. When I'm resting in my grave, there is nothing more to be said. May the life I live speak for me. The bridge says this: the works I've done, sometimes it seems so small. It seems like I've done nothing at all. Lord, I'm leaning and depending on you. If I do right, you're going to see me through. May the works that I've done speak for me. So, beloved, it gives me happy pleasure and privilege to present to some and introduce to others the person that I call Uncle Alzo, the Honorable Dr. Alzo Reddick, Sr. Would you receive him today? Come on, stand up. Let us receive this great wonderful.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor, Cousin Doris Moore Bailey, that outstanding theologian, football player, orator, leader of this community that comes to provide biblical leadership, but community leadership. Amen. I am honored and delighted from the bottom of my heart to be here, as the song says, one more time. I want to tell you some good news and some bad news today. The bad news is I got a speech for you. The good news is it's not going to be that long. I want you to understand that on my next birthday I'll be 85. My great... I'm going to tell you some war stories. I'll be 85 on my next birthday, and I began my educational career, as Pastor Lake said, right there at Crooms Academy in Bartow. Polk County got me off to a good start because by the time I got to Orlando, I could read and write in the second grade, and I was beaten up quite a bit because I could read and I was a little scary boy. I wasn't a big football player. And all of a sudden, because I could read, I would be appointed to help the kids that couldn't read. And I tell you, that's a part of my story because I remember being in the back of Mrs. Johnson's second grade class. And I want you to understand that the stories that I'm going to tell you are going to meld and weave kind of like a mosaic. I played football against Deacon Jones in high school and Ernie Ladd in college. I don't claim to you that I was a great football player, and the only thing that I hold against Pastor Lake, he could have put on that Rattler uniform, but he paid for them Gators. And not only do I not forgive him for it, I'm reminded of it every time. Ladies and gentlemen, on a 35 or 36-man team, I was number 37 on the football team. But I made the dean list. Now, why is it that I want to tell you about the dean's list? I mentioned to you that I played football against Deacon Jones and Ernie Ladd. I played hooky in the 4th grade to see Jackie Robinson. And for those of you that can't remember what Jackie Robinson, for a 4th grader playing hooky for the first time in my life, I'm a goody two-shoe. I'm a little guy that sits up in the front of the classroom. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, to the teacher. Love Mrs. Brown to the bottom of my heart. And so, Jackie Robinson, this is the first integrated event that I attended in Orlando. He's walking around the field and he's pigeon-toed. He walks like this. Jackie Robinson. Black is, there's nothing as black as that. These shoes are not as black as he. He's just as pigeon-toed as it can be. But it's the first integrated event. And I shared with you because there was nothing but little white boys and little black boys. The year is 1948. The year of 1948, when the white boys came to Orlando, they stayed on Orange Avenue near the Florida A&M Law School, so you know what we're talking about. Where did Jackie Robinson stay? Jackie Robinson stayed in Dr. Wells' house on South Street. Why is that important to you? I am here to talk about briefly the Juneteenth. The people that elected me in Orange County in 1982, I cannot say thank you to the grandmothers and the grandfathers and the parents that voted for me. But what I can do for their children and your grandchildren, the same fires that ignite the heart of me, the passion of me, means that for the children that are here, there may be a future Barbara Jordan right here on this presentation tonight.
All right.
Somehow we must understand. And so I'm going to dispel 2 or 3 myths. Don't you ever let anybody believe that when it comes to American security, American unity, that black men and women didn't make our creation in blood and tears. When I hear that somehow people say, go return to Africa, there's no one more American than black people in America. And for those of you, the men and women with whom I served, and I wore the uniform proudly, the Vietnamese, by and large, when you see the average Vietnamese, they're a whole foot shorter than the average American. But the Vietnamese, when we left in 1973, the Vietnamese had whipped our bottom parts. That's the way I'm going to speak. I got Pastor Lake here, so I'm going to speak. I want you to understand that the men with whom I serve in that Laugh magazine, when you see that picture of white and black men died, the Vietnamese were losing 100 men for every 10 that we lost. And this is what the Vietnamese said. They said, we can stand to lose 100 more than you can your 10. Who won that well? Who won that war? America helicopters. We were pushing helicopters out in the ocean because the Vietnamese said we can take it longer than you. Now, I'm going to return to Juneteenth. The South was saying, just leave us alone. Just leave us alone. What is a better deal than if you can have sex with your workers all night and work them all day? Who's going to give up slavery? I want people to understand what slavery was about. All of us that have brown eyes and red hair and green eyes, I want you to understand what that was about. I want you to understand when Master come down and tell your child, he's not going to just empty the chamber pot, so I'm not going to go any further than that. I want people to know about slavery. I mentioned to you my great-grandmother was born in 1855. As a child, I knew my grandmother. So for me, slavery isn't something theoretical. Slavery, she was born in 1855. She was alive when I was born in 1937, and I remember her. So what is Juneteenth when it comes to it? Juneteenth, when Abraham Lincoln, there were 3 generals, General Fremont, Davis, Hunter, that tried to sign up black soldiers. Abraham Lincoln, with all due respect, Mayor, politicians are politicians. I don't want to make you guys angry today. I want Cousin Doris Moore Bailey to invite me back here again. I love coming to Lake. And for those of you that remember past events, I don't think I've ever missed one. Every time I get an invitation, I say, yes ma'am, I'm coming. What is it about a politician? We don't want to piss our constituents off. We want to satisfy them. Abraham Lincoln did not have as much bravery about signing up black troops because people were saying, we're not fighting for those, y'all insert the words you want to insert there if you're familiar with it. Well, when Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, that is when black soldiers, they were not paid the same. So discrimination about the United States military, not something new. They didn't want to pay them the same amount. Some of the black soldiers refused to accept that lesser pay. But when it comes to fighting, we demonstrated beyond anybody's question what we have made out so far as fighting men. And so when it comes to Juneteenth, I tell the story of Vietnam and return to Vietnam. We lost Vietnam not because we didn't have firepower, we didn't have willpower. Right. We didn't have willpower and we lost Vietnam. And that is what the South wanted to do in terms of just leave us alone. Just leave us alone. No, it's too late to leave you alone now. It's fighting time now. And why that is so important, it is so important that you understand the role of the USCT. When the USCT fought at Fort Sumter, at Battery Wagner, and blood and bodies were piled up, that is the courage. And so when we talk about Juneteenth, and by the time the U.S. colored troop got to Texas 2 years after Emancipation Proclamation and said people were free, there's no social media, there's no Facebook, there's no Telegram, but what delivered the word? What delivered the word were black soldiers that prepared to fight and die. For those of you that are interested in history, if you want to know about courage, go and look at the pay records of the USCT. Right. They had their names written in X for pay because they couldn't read and write, but what is it they could do? They fought. The reason there's a United States of America at a time when the weak-minded and the weak-lead would somehow go and escape, just like we did in Vietnam, and I want to be real when I talk to you about what it is when you kind of get weak-kneed. When you're talking about what will Sambo do, the question will, what will Sambo do when he's faced with hot steel and cold iron? What will he do? He fought his butt off. I hope that's clean enough. He fought and he provided an opportunity for these United States to come together. I cannot say enough to the AME Church for providing an education to me. Paul Quinn College is the oldest black college in Texas. I learned about Juneteenth because I never saw in one of the textbooks at Jones High School, and I was an honor student most of the time when I was in school, nobody shows any pictures of black soldiers. Right. Nobody tells, and I'm going to say this, and this is Polk County. I don't know whether we're going to have any revision on CRT in Polk County, but here's to tell you a secret. I don't want to ever bore you, and if I don't make you excited about something new, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to raise the volume so you won't sleep on this address. Here's what I want to leave you with today. When people talk about CRT, which is graduate school education, I say, I don't want to talk about CRT. I want you to tell the truth about what black people did in this country. Yes. And the truth that I want you to tell is when Marsh Lee, you see General Lee has his dress uniform on. He has 3 stars. He's immaculately attired. He was the #1 soldier at West Point. When you're a West Point soldier, it means you're dressed and covered. It means you're locked and loaded. You're ready to go. It means you're the sharpest guy there. Your uniform, your conduct, you know trigonometry, geometry, and everything else. But when it came to those black soldiers, would they fight? When General Lee surrendered at Appomattox Courthouse, nobody shows any pictures. It was black soldiers there that signed the payroll and X, but they could fight. And that is what I want to leave you with. I want to leave you with, I have a sacred responsibility as a black man in America to say thank you to all of the people that provided food and milk and all that stuff to get you from diapers to an old guy almost 85. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you, when I refer to playing football against Deacon Jones and Ernie Ladd, the fiercest warriors that I have met in my life are those black teachers that in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade said integration is going to come someday and you got to be ready. Every educator in here, I cannot say thank you to Miss Johnson, who's my 2nd and 3rd grade teacher. I can't say thank you to Miss Brown, who's my 4th grade teacher. But what I say to you is this. Mrs. Brown, Mrs. Nixon told me about black men fighting in World War I and World War II. It is my sacred duty and responsibility to pass on to another generation. Don't you let anybody give you any hype or jive. We paid our way. Yes. We earned our way. We paid our way. I'm not asking anyone's son to play football as Pastor Lake and I did, and he was a better football player. I admitted that. Bad choice on the Gators, but other than that, I'm going to forgive him. Yeah. But here's what I'm going to say to you. On some other day, when we don't have someone playing football, On some other day, let us have our second and third grade doing a PhD about how well black soldiers fought. But some other day, when we talk about the future of our democracy, means that we don't want a butcher that puts his head on the scale. We don't want anybody playing with the numbers on the voting process. We want people to tell the truth about the voting process. Democracy is a fragile exercise. In my time as a member of the United States Army, we fought and helped save Greece from communism, the birthplace of democracy. Democracy is not guaranteed. Democracy is guaranteed only when people pray, when people think, and ultimately when people are prepared to fight. That is what Juneteenth was about. I thank you for listening to me. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Reddick. Dr. Reddick, I tell you.